The world emerged from World War II, hoping for a brighter future. Victory was achieved, but a new conflict was brewing, the Cold War. This war was fought with ideology and suspicion. The United States championed democracy and capitalism. The Soviet Union, led by Joseph Stalin, stood for communism. The stage was set for a decades-long struggle. Europe was divided by an iron curtain. Both sides amassed nuclear arsenals, casting a chilling shadow. The seeds of the Cold War were sown even before the guns of World War II fell silent. The US and the Soviet Union had been uneasy allies, united against Nazi Germany, but divided by ideology and ambition. Stalin's expansionist aims in Eastern Europe clashed with America's vision of a free and democratic world. The wartime alliance crumbled, replaced by mutual distrust and suspicion. The Soviet Union, seeking to secure its borders after suffering devastating losses during the war, installed communist regimes in Eastern European nations. The United States, fearing the spread of communism, responded with the Truman Doctrine, pledging to support free peoples who are resisting attempted subjugation by armed minorities or by outside pressures. This marked the beginning of the Cold War's defining struggle, the battle between communism and democracy. The Cold War was a period of intense tension, punctuated by crises that brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. One such crisis was the Berlin blockade of 1948, when the Soviet Union blocked all land and water routes into West Berlin, attempting to starve the city into submission. The US responded with the Berlin Airlift, a massive humanitarian effort that saw Allied planes airlifting supplies to the beleaguered city for over a year. Another flashpoint was the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, perhaps the most dangerous moment in human history. The Soviet Union, under Nikita Khrushchev, began installing nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from US soil. The world held its breath as President John F. Kennedy and Khrushchev engaged in a tense standoff, with the threat of nuclear war looming large. After days of agonizing negotiations, Khrushchev agreed to remove the missiles, averting a global catastrophe. At the heart of the Cold War lay a terrifying new reality, the nuclear arms race. Both the US and the Soviet Union poured vast resources into developing ever more powerful nuclear weapons, each seeking to deter the other from ever using them. The world watched in horror as the number of nuclear warheads grew exponentially, creating a sense of constant dread. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction, MAD, emerged, a chilling logic that argued that neither side would risk a nuclear attack, knowing that it would inevitably lead to their own annihilation. This precarious balance of terror prevented a nuclear holocaust, but it came at a high price. The constant fear of annihilation, the diversion of resources from vital social programs, and the environmental damage caused by nuclear testing. Section 5. Beyond Earth's embrace, the conquest of space. The Cold War rivalry extended into space, with the US and Soviet Union competing fiercely. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite. In 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space. The US poured resources into its space program to catch up. In 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon, a triumph of American ingenuity. Section 6. A world on edge living with the Iron Curtain. The Cold War cast a long shadow over the lives of millions, particularly those living in the shadow of the Iron Curtain. In Eastern Europe, communist regimes suppressed dissent, limited personal freedoms, and imposed strict censorship. The Stasi, East Germany's secret police, became a symbol of oppression, monitoring citizens and ruthlessly crushing any opposition to the state. The Berlin Wall, erected in 1961 to stem the flow of refugees from East to West Berlin, became a potent symbol of the Cold War's dividing lines. Families were separated, dreams were shattered, and the hope of reunification seemed like a distant dream. The Cold War was a time of fear and uncertainty, a period when the world teetered on the brink of conflict. Section 7. The thaw, cracks in the wall of hostility. By the 1970s, there were signs of a thaw in the Cold War freeze. US President Richard Nixon's policy of détente, aimed at easing tensions with the Soviet Union, led to a series of arms control agreements and increased diplomatic engagement. The Helsinki Accords of 1975, signed by both superpowers, recognized the inviolability of European borders and promoted cooperation on human rights. The rise of Mikhail Gorbachev as leader of the Soviet Union in 1985 marked a turning point in the Cold War. Gorbachev, a reformer at heart, introduced policies of glasnost, or openness, and perestroika, or restructuring, aiming to revitalize the stagnant Soviet system. He also sought to reduce Cold War tensions, engaging in constructive dialogue with US President Ronald Reagan. Section 8. Echoes of the Cold War. A legacy endures. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the subsequent collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked the end of the Cold War. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief as the threat of nuclear annihilation receded. The Cold War had profound and lasting consequences, shaping the geopolitical landscape and leaving an indelible mark on the world. The Cold War's legacy is complex and multifaceted. It left a world grappling with the proliferation of nuclear weapons, the challenge of navigating a new world order, and the enduring impact of Cold War ideologies and rivalries. The echoes of the Cold War can still be felt today in regional conflicts, political divisions, and the ongoing struggle for global influence. Please like and subscribe for more historical content.